Broadcasting from the campus of Lynn Benton Community College. We are the Mid-Valley STEM-CTE Hub. I'm your host, Casey, and this is Closing the Gap. Hey everybody, welcome back to Closing the Gap. Today on the show we have Carolina Guillen. Carolina is a OSU graduate as well as a West Albany High alumni. Her and I will be talking about diversifying your time as a college student and how building community and developing activities and interests that you enjoy can not only help you and benefit you while you're a student in school, but also how it can help you get a job after graduation. Hi, Carolina. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Carolina Guillen. I studied bioengineering at Oregon State University, and now I'm currently working at Genentech as a validation engineer. And I have a dog named Bono, and it's a little fun fact.
What kind of dog is Bono?
He's a German short-hair pointer, so GSP for short.
Nice. So what inspired you to start an engineering career? Did you have any engineering role models as a student or take any classes that particularly piqued your interest in this direction?
Yeah, I definitely did. I'm an only child, so I definitely had lots of mentors, and at some point I became not afraid to reach out to people for advice or resources, because I didn't have any siblings to bother in that aspect. So I did, when I first moved to the US, I liked math a lot because that was the only class that I had to go to that didn't require knowing another language because the numbers are the same. So that one became my comfort class, I guess you could say. So I really enjoyed that class. Plus the teacher was really cool and she was very motivating. I think teachers definitely play a big influence on what you choose as a career path, along with your parents, your lived experiences, where you volunteer. And that's where my mentors come in. I definitely found a lot of my mentors in volunteering events that I attended, or summer camps that my mom forcefully signed me up to. But at the end of the day, I really ended up enjoying them. And that's where I found most of the mentors that really helped me to get to where I am now. I will say that most of my mentors now, my most influential ones, I got from volunteering events that I helped out at. So I definitely recommend getting involved and volunteering in things that you might not even think that you're interested in, because you might actually like it. So just don't close yourself to the idea of the things that you think that you know that you want before trying things that you don't know what they are. If that makes any sense.
I noticed when I was perusing your LinkedIn that you also did a lot of volunteering for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And I was wondering if you could kind of tell us what support SHPE offers.
Yeah. So SHEP is a nonprofit organization that I discovered once I was in college, my freshman year, through one of my friends. And I guess for me, the biggest part that drew me into it at first was the community. As a English, not being my first language or things like that, I really wanted to be with people that had my same culture, that spoke Spanish, that listening to salsa, cumbia, the songs that I like. So that's the first thing that drew my attention, that it was an organization that was for Hispanics, which I guess it's not just for Hispanics, it's just in the name, everyone's welcome. But that's the first thing that caught my attention. And then the second one was once I went, it clicked to me that it was also for engineers. And I was this is even more cool, because it's for Hispanics in engineering, which is what I was doing in the university. So I was oh my gosh, this is perfect, because I had no idea really what to expect. Like I said, I don't have any siblings that are older than me or younger. So I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, I was just kind of browsing through. And then it was so nice to have like upperclassmates that were in the club, like reach out and be like, hey, I'm your same major. You're going to need this book. And then they would let us borrow books. And like, you know, that just saved you like $200 right there. So like, it's even the little things, you know, then it made me realize like, wow, I have like people here that could really tell me like, what electives I would be interested in, you know, like what electives they took in the university that I might be interested in. Like, it's good to get feedback from others, what professors they really like, what professors they didn't like. So just advantages here and there from having friends that not only speak my same language, but also are going through the same thing that I'm going through. And then also like it helps you like get involved with the community. So for me, I think I'm really passionate about doing outreach, because I feel like that's really what helped me when I moved to the US. I did a lot of outreach, like especially in STEM. So like it's something that I really enjoyed, and that's, like I said, where I found most of my mentors. So I think I like giving back in that sense, where I really enjoy going and putting on like STEM kits for little kids, like, you know, like STEM activities for little kids. And so that's something that SHEP also allowed me to do. Like we were able to go to like elementary schools around the community and do like, we call them Noche de Ciencias, which means science nights. And so we would do that. We would also go to professional conferences, and that's where a lot of people find internships and jobs, full-time jobs. That's how I found actually my first internship that was out of the state in engineering through one of the SHEP newsletters. So I think for me, like it really helped me grow in a lot of different aspects, like as a leader, as a community member, as a person, as a professional. So I think for me, I really have enjoyed being part of that organization. And I still volunteer at their events here and there. So you might see me around if you are involved or decide to get involved, like reach out, or everyone's really nice.
So how do you get involved with this organization?
Yeah, freshman year, so I met one of my friends that goes to OSU through another volunteering event I did years ago, through 4-H, a 4-H summer camp. And so I met him there, and he was president at the time of SHEP. And he's like, hey, you should come to our meetings. We have a meeting tonight. And so I was like, okay, you know, and I went to the first meeting, and I really liked everyone that was there. Like the fact that because you know, I mean, sometimes upperclassmen can be like intimidating, but everyone was super nice, and they came to me and they're like, oh, what class are you taking? And the fact that this girl was like, you know, I mean, you've been through college, you mentioned you're in college, so books are expensive. So the fact that this girl came up to me, she's like, oh, you're gonna need this book next term. I have it at my house. Like, don't buy it. You can borrow it from me. I was like, wow, you know, like these people are like really trying to help me like succeed in this major that like I have really no idea what I'm getting myself into. But I really appreciated that, you know, like having those like connections, like a mentor that had been through something that I hadn't, but it's something that I'm going through. So those are like the little things that, I don't know, it feels like more like a community, you know? I don't know, we say we're family, like we call SHEP a familia. So it feels more like a home, you know, like your sibling trying to help you. And then I did the same with like younger classmates as they came in, and it's just a very rewarding feeling, I think. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I got invited to a meeting, and then I sticked around and I couldn't let go, so.
For sure. Yeah, totally. It sounds like doing this volunteer work and like being able to be part of this community like really helped your experience in college. You know, community is super important. It's something I think we touch on a lot at the show, of like building community can only like really help you succeed along the way. And it's like one of these factors that like time and time again I find that really is like beneficial to the success of people.
Yes, and also I guess one more thing that I like to share about like being part of like out of extracurriculums outside of like your normal classes. So for example, I feel like SHEP for me was like an outlet to the things that I wanted to do and get that support. Like, so for example, the books, let's say, this is just something that I thought about now, but you know how like books can be pretty expensive. We can start like our own program of like book lending, and like those are like the random ideas that I would sometimes get. Like I got some random ones for fundraising, but like, you know, these ideas that you get to try to help others, like that's what like can like the people and like the means, like the resources that like SHEP has, for example, but other clubs could also have, can help you like start that like idea that you had, like for example a book lending program, I can see it happening, but it's also like a good way to help the community in things that are important to you and don't necessarily have to be like school related, because a lot of people when I was in the university, I felt like they wanted to find internships or undergraduate research that was like really geared towards their major. But so as an undergraduate, I also work as an undergraduate research ambassador. So I helped students find research opportunities, like got them into a lab. And so oftentimes I would tell them like, hey, you know what, don't stress too much about it. Like if you don't find a lab that has openings right now for something that your major is about, why don't you explore something else that like you have been always curious about? Because some people have like minors, like for example in Spanish or things like that, or education. And I'm like, there's also research in education. Like there's a lot of research going on in the education program. So this is a good way for you to try it out. And you don't even have to pay for classes. Like as a minor, you actually get paid for it. So like I would encourage them to kind of do it that way, so that way they get paid for getting that experience, and then they like learn if it's something that they're actually into or not, like give themselves an opportunity. And undergraduate research is like a good way to do that.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a lot of people have that kind of experience of like they get a degree in something and then they realize like once they're in the field or like so far into their degree that they don't really even enjoy what they're doing. So I mean, I think that's like a really great suggestion. So can you tell me how you got into or you got interested in doing prosthetics and like kind of bioengineering, like that kind of field?
Yeah, so actually, okay, fun fact. When I got into my major at OSU, it's bioengineering, and I don't know if you are very familiar with OSU's majors, but we actually have bioengineering is under the College of CBE, Chemical, Biological, and Environmental Engineering. And actually, we have or BioE degree, which stands for biological engineering in the CBE title, but it's actually not, because we actually have a biological engineering degree, like it's spelled out completely like biological. And when I got into my major, I thought that bioengineering stood for biomedical engineering because I wanted to do like, prosthetics and orthotics. And it wasn't until like year 2, because the first 2 years in engineering are pretty much the same. They're like math, science, like physics, chemistry. So, first 2 years, I had no idea really what my major was really about, because I hadn't had any like really specific classes. So going through conferences, I would tell people like, oh, I'm a bioengineer. And then people would quickly assume like biomedical, especially in the East Coast. So later on, I got an internship at Ohio State University under a mechanical engineering professor who did kind of like that stuff for patients. Actually, I work with the FES system, frequency electrical stimulation system, that's like implanted through surgery on your muscles, and like it sends electric signals, and it allows people that have like tetraplegia, or like pretty much when they don't have movement on their arms or like muscles. For example, the lady that I work with, she didn't have movement on her arms, so she got this system through surgery. And then it was like the purpose of it was to like help her be more independent and like help her eat a sandwich or brush her hair on her own, little things like that that really help people feel more independent. But the problem with it is that like she really depended on her caregiver. And so if her caregiver was sick and couldn't go and give her exercises, we didn't know the amount of force that she had like the next day, correct? So it would change a lot. So we wanted to make a system that was simple for someone like from her family to like give her the put that on and have it work any day, regardless of like her level of strength in her muscles that day. So anyway, I think I'm going a little bit off topic, but the thing is that the professor that I worked with was under mechanical engineering, and he was doing that kind of stuff, the work that I liked. And the fact that I noticed that like with my major, I was able to do that stuff. It's something that really intrigued me. I was like, oh, if I can still do the things that I want to do with my major, then like, why not, right? So, yeah. And I realized I really wanted to work with like a patient. Like I really wanted to do something, like do work and have it be impactful, kind of like right there and then. Because I did start undergraduate research since I was a freshman, but it takes a while. Like we were far from even testing on like animals. So that was like the only aspect that I didn't quite enjoy about undergraduate research. Well, the specific research that I was involved in, we were far from even testing on animals. So I was like, oh, I just want to make an impact now. And so that's something that I really enjoyed about that internship in Cleveland, Ohio, then allowed me to see that I could still do the majors I wanted.
If I understand correct, like the prosthetic that you were working on with that lady would allow her to be able to like independently move the prosthetic, like just with like her nerves.
Yeah,
Or
the thing about that patient is that she was not actually wearing a prosthetic. So she had something called tetraplegia. So she lost movement from her neck down. And
okay.
it was actually a system. It's like pretty much like cables. It's not a prosthetic. It's cables that you put through surgery that connect to your muscle. And so they're like inside your arm. So you can't really see a prosthetic. It's like your real arm. Like
Oh
she never
wow.
lost any limbs. She has her intact limbs, but she just doesn't have control over her arms or anything. So that's where the FES system comes in.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and so I realized that it's not only prosthetics. There's other things that I can still do, and I just really like that patient me interaction, if that makes any sense. And like she was
Yeah,
also
some instant
older.
gratification.
Yes, like she was older and she was scared of robots, and we had like a robot in the lab that like moved the arm, and she was scared of it, and it was just like the cutest thing. It's like kind of like not only doing like the technical stuff, but also doing like oh, it's okay, like the robot wouldn't like hurt you, like see, this is the button, turn it on, this is the one, turn it off. And so just going through it with her, it was like, I think that's just the stuff that makes me really passionate, especially about that internship. That's what really made me passionate about it.
For sure. How would a student know that this would be like the right kind of career direction for them? Like what are some interests, assets, skills that like a person would have that's like maybe think about going into this? It'd be like, yeah, this is for me. Like what makes a good bioengineer?
I would say definitely give it a chance. Like when I first started my university path in engineering, I was like the first like semester, we go by quarters, the first quarter, and I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. This is a little harder than I thought. Like you definitely question yourself and like if this is really what you see yourself doing. But I feel like definitely give it a chance and get like yourself involved in something where you see yourself using this. For example, in my case, it was undergraduate research. And I didn't even really know about it in high school. So I highly recommend if you're in high school and are listening to this, like look that up and try to get involved as soon as you can. And there's research in every like field. So there's something for you out there. Plus, like if that's not an incentive already, you can get paid for it. Plus gain lots of experience and mentors. And also like those mentors are the ones that then give you like your letters of recommendation for internships or scholarships you want to apply to. So there's a lot of benefits on doing undergraduate research. Plus you learn what it is that you like and enjoy doing and what you don't. And that's something important. So I think after that, once I joined the research, I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Like, I really want to be able to do all of this. And like, I would see like where the skill sets would come in to do certain things. So that's something that I really helped me stay in the major, because at first it was just like math, chemistry, like, just like the heavy like STEM all at once. And it's a lot of changes at once when you first like move out of your parents' house, or you're independent, and then you get all these hard classes, lots of homework, have to learn to do everything on your own. So just definitely give it time, and then you will know, like, if it's something that you find passionate, like the more you learn, like I find that the more that you get interested in it. And I feel like you would just know. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess like what makes a good engineer is also like technical writing. It's something that people don't think about, but at least in my current job, it's something that we do a lot. You'll be surprised, because a lot of people I've heard in engineering like, oh no, like, because some people I have heard people correct others in like their spelling, and they're like, oh, this is why I'm an engineer. But that's a myth, like you definitely have really good writing and like technical skills for certain engineering jobs. For example, like mine, like validation engineering at a pharmaceutical, it's very important to have good technical writing. I'm still working on mine. Like, I think there's always room for learning. And also communication and organization. Like I know those are basics, because people I feel like always expect me to say like, oh, you should be able to do differential equations and like have all the physics right here. But honestly, sometimes it's the simple stuff that it's the most important, because that will allow you to do like a good job. So
yeah, totally. Being able to communicate is like efficiently is super important. I think any
Mm-hmm.
job you could ever do, because how do you ask for help if you don't know how to properly communicate it, right?
Yeah.
So you're from Mexico originally, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Would
Born
you
and
like to
raised.
share? Oh yeah, nice. Would you like to share your experience moving from Mexico to the US?
Yeah. So actually, I moved to the US when I was like a teenager, and I moved from a big city. I moved from Guadalajara. Uh, so then my first town that I moved into in Oregon was Albany, and it's I don't know if you guys have if you've been to Albany, but
I'm in
um,
Albany right now, actually.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
But it's way smaller compared to Guadalajara. So there were like things closing like at 5 p.m. on Sunday. And, I was like, what do you mean this store closes on Sunday? So that was just like the big ask. Because, as a teenager, you want to go out with friends, do things like go to the mall, go ice skating. I don't know. So that was like the first big difference for me, like seeing the difference between like a big city and like living in a town. And then the next one was like the holidays. Because I came in the summer, so I hadn't experienced the school yet, the school life in the US. So the holidays were also a big one. Like I just feel like there's more family in Mexico, and the culture is a lot different. So when you grow up so used to something, you definitely feel the change. Like the first, I mean, I still feel it, and I've lived here in for a few years now. But I think the culture is also like a big change, like a big shock. And then the school too, like I would notice like the little things, like for example, from in my school in Mexico, I grew up learning two languages, like Spanish and English, but in my English classes, they never teach me the slang. And so I was like, what's the difference between weird and creepy? And, I didn't really have internet back in the day. I had to go to the library and, you know, I was like, wow, I feel like I've learned nothing because everyone speaks so fast. I have a thick accent. I always have to repeat myself. When I first moved here, I had a very thick accent. Uh, sometimes that was unmotivating for me, I guess. Sometimes I just preferred not to talk because I just knew I was going to have to repeat myself. So sometimes that was another big like limitator, I guess, for me to try to make new friends, just because I felt so self-conscious about it. Mainly because I had to repeat myself. So I was like, oh, people are obviously not understanding me. And then I also took things to like, I guess whenever I talk to people like native speakers, they would be like, like, in that age when you're a teenager and you have like a crush on a boy. One of my friends had a crush on a boy, and like she made it seem to me like she liked him, but I didn't quite know how to use the word like, and I was like, oh, so cute. So you love him. She's like, I wouldn't go that far, but I like him. And I was like, oh, right, right. So, just things like that here and there. And then what else? Oh, and then I guess there's also like the aspect of my parents. Like, I mean, I live with my parents, and since I was the one that went to a bilingual school, my parents had a lot of expectations on me. So I had to translate at the doctors without knowing any of the technical words,
That'd have to
Um,
be tough.
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, what did he say? The pill has to be every 3-4 hours or 48 hours. You live some very stressful times because your parents, I feel like the role sometimes getting inverted. Sometimes I feel like I was the parent to my parents, if that makes any sense, because you have like so much responsibility just because you're learning the language way quicker than they are. And I also helped my parents like buy their home while I was like in the university. That was stressful, having to do my schoolwork and helping them negotiate for a house, something that I had no experience in. So it's definitely helped me learn more things quicker than I think I would have if I wouldn't have if I wouldn't have to help my parents the way that I do. I don't think I would have as much experience in so many diverse things. Even like translating, because both my parents have degrees from Mexico, but when they moved here, they're not like valued like the same. They're not like translated. So like my mom had to pretty much take the same classes and get a diploma here. So it's like a whole, like you learn so many things that most people are not even aware of. And I'm constantly still learning from my friends that come from different countries. So it's something that I definitely really enjoy doing, talking to people that come from other countries, because they have like different laws, different culture, and there's things that they go through that I had no idea. And it just, the fact that they have the like confidence or like comfort, feel comfortable sharing them with me, I'm like, wow, like, that just makes me value like all the things that you do like more, and like, oh, like I had no idea. And so I feel like it's the same with me. Like I feel like sometimes when you say you're from a country, people take it so light. They're like, oh, cool. But they don't know like all the, I guess, in a way, sacrifices that come behind it, and like the effort and the long days. I definitely had the support all the time, and I think it just makes me value a lot of things even more. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. You had mentioned that your mom had to go back to school and like take classes again for a degree that she already had. That sounds like quite a
Yeah.
sacrifice too, because I think, we both know how much effort it takes to be in school on top
Hmm.
of, having to like support a family and like have your own life and, do all that
Yeah.
stuff. So,
And how
um,
expensive it is. Hmm.
yeah, totally. Um, I don't know if is there like a reason why like that that like the US didn't recognize like a degree that she already had. Like that seems kind of backwards, you know?
Yeah, I know there's like certain majors that they do validate, like the license, like the, what do you call them? Is the
Like they
degree?
recognize it or yeah, degree, yeah.
Yeah, like there's certain degrees that the US does recognize from most countries, and it's mainly, like doctor, engineering, higher up their uh degrees. So my
Hmm.
mom, like, the main issue was like not all the classes were like validated, so she had to like go back and like, because there's different classes that they take and that they take here. But the curious thing was that there's not like a test you can take to like just make yourself like, for them to check that you have the knowledge, and then
Hmm.
just take that and validate the degree. Like there's not a test that exists, at least when she was going through the process. There was nothing like that, so she had just to pretty much do her whole degree again, but in the US. So that was tough, because my my mom was not used to staying up till 11:50 at night, because the homework's due at midnight. Online, she was used to like the pen and paper, and and you turn it in the next day, the homework, like. And then there was just a lot of new things since she had last gone to school. And I know how hard she worked, and it just makes me like admire her more. But sometimes it also like doesn't make sense to me how there's not like a test or anything. But
Yeah, it seems like there could be some processes in place to make that transition easier.
yes, I definitely agree. And it's something that I've heard from like multiple people, especially in the education world. I hear it unfortunately happens a lot.
And that's no small thing to not be having dealt with or like have some system that's like working for them. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of time.
Hmm.
But what have been some of your biggest challenges so far pursuing your career and your degree?
Whew. I think the main one, I mean, the currently main one, well, not currently, but the most recent one, I think was moving out of my parents' house to continue my job. In our culture, you tend to, for parents, it's normal for you to move out once like you're married, and like and it's normal to live with them until then, and like you go to work and then come back to their house. But my work's like an hour and a half or more if there's traffic from their house, so I kind of tried that for like 3 months, kind of try it out and also make my parents happy. But then at some point I was like, you know what, like all I am doing is going to work and sleep and getting up to drive, sleep, work, and repeat. So I'm not I am not enjoying my free time. So I moved out. And my mom was like, no, like, why are you moving out? Just
Mhm.
and I don't know, I guess that's maybe like a, no, I don't know if it is a common one for people. I don't think so from what I talk to my friends, but I guess moving out to like pursue like my career and something that I enjoy was one of them. Just because it's so weird for me to move out, if that makes any sense. I mean, both
Totally.
my parents, but mainly my mom is the one that it was very difficult for her. Uh, and then I guess before I started college, I was a little concerned about how to pay for college. But then thankfully, like I learned of a lot of because I had learned about FAFSA, but
Hmm.
I turns out we didn't receive any any help from FAFSA. So then that's when I discovered the scholarships, and I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of scholarships out there. I mean, you do have to put in the time and to like write the essays, but I think it's worth it, and there's definitely a lot of them out there. Um, so that really helped me. That was definitely like a challenge at first, like after because I was kind of leaning towards like, oh, I'll get FAFSA help, and then I realized I didn't get any FAFSA help, and then I was like, oh no. So then that's when I discovered all like the scholarships world, and also that the universities, when you apply, you automatically get into a scholarship poll, I guess, and you can get like scholarships from it, from your application to the university, and that's how I got one of mine. I didn't even know that was a thing. I did it without knowing, so that was nice.
Totally. But yeah,
Yeah,
like having to go into like getting your own scholarships and writing all of those papers and collecting all that paperwork to apply for one that you may or may not get. It takes so much more time than just being able to fill out your FAFSA and like get offered some grant money or like get offered a loan.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I did
it's
get loan offers, but I didn't want to take those.
yeah, I don't blame you. Who would want to? It's so much money on the back end. Oh, yeah, I feel yeah. I had applied for a bunch of scholarships, didn't get any of them, but it's I just can recognize like how much time that it takes to fill those out.
Yeah, and some of them come down to like really non-academic things. Like I
Yeah.
will share one of mine that I got that it was a little, I mean, I was really happy that I got it, but I was a little upset that it came down to what it came down to. I applied to first I applied to the Coca-Cola scholarship in before I graduated high school, and I was a semi-finalist, and then I didn't get it. And then I applied to the Dr. Pepper scholarship, and I was a semi-finalist, and then I actually won the scholarship. But like what it came down to was throwing footballs through like a hole, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It's
Oh
so
my gosh.
horrible. But I mean, I guess this is hopefully to motivate others out there that if you have a skill, you can probably find a scholarship for it. Like there's scholarships for being left-handed. Like there's scholarships for a lot of things out there. And what I would often do is like just go into Google and say scholarships that I can apply to now, and then a bunch of them would come up, and that's what I would do. My winter break, that's what I did.
Right on. So what accomplishments are you most proud of so far?
Wow, graduating, getting my degree. um, I guess my degree became a lot more like emotional than I thought it would be. I mean, because for me, at least in my family, college was like an expectative. Um, I didn't know how I was gonna go through it or what I was gonna end up doing, but I just always knew that I was gonna go and get a degree. But then we moved countries, and I was just like looking back at some pictures not that long ago, and I was like, wow, I can't believe like I learned English this well. Like now my parents know English. Like they don't know it 100%, but like they know way more than what they knew before. My mom has to work like different like jobs because her degree wasn't valued the same. And I'm like, it makes me like see more or like see and feel my parents like sacrifices that they have done, and it just like hits me more like it makes it more special just because I know like, oh, I mean, I didn't do this by myself. Like I definitely had a lot of support. My parents don't really, well, my mom especially, she doesn't really know what I do at work. My dad has more of an idea, but I always I would come home and there was food at the table, and like, it's like I always had like a good support system, even though I didn't have that help for like the actual, like how to get through college, like that I had to find on my own. But I definitely had like a really good support system at home. And I think that like made my degree like more like feel more of an accomplishment than I thought it would be. Because, like I said, it was an expectation for me. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it ended up being more emotional than I thought it would be, because it just made me look back into all the things that I have done and my family has done to get to where we are now. So it makes it special for me in that sense. And also like makes me good to like, it gives me a good feeling. Because like I said, I also like being a mentor. Like I had mentors and I really admire them and I look up to them and I want to be like them. And I've been a mentor to other people and I hope that they also feel that way and then they can pass on like the ripple effect. And that also makes me feel like really proud and happy because I feel like I always had that support. Like I had some type of help along the way always. And I just want to be that help for other people too. So that's one of them. And another one is, it's gonna sound crazy and this is kind of random, but I've always wanted to have a dog. Like you have no idea. Like for Christmas, it was a dog and a sibling I would ask for Santa. And I never got either of them. So so I finally, when I moved out, I was able to afford a dog and I bought a GSP, which are very high energy dogs, I don't know, you know. So he keeps me in shape. um And so that's another big accomplishment because it's something I've always wanted, but my parents don't like having dogs at home. So I had to just, you know, get a degree, afford my own apartment and the dog's food and my own food. And but finally, over 20 years later, here we are. So that's another big accomplishment. um,
I think that's a great list of accomplishments. Yeah. I like that. I like that your dog is one of your proudest accomplishments. Like, that's so wonderful.
It's true. I know it's a silly one, but it's definitely one of the biggest accomplishments.
So do you have any advice for students that may be kind of on a similar path to you or identify with your experience? Like, do you have any words of wisdom to pass along for the next generation?
I will try. Definitely don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Definitely, like if there's certain jobs that you're interested in, definitely do like job shadowing or informational interviews. It's a lot less scary than people think. And then like I really want to highlight how important I think undergraduate research is, just because it really allows you to like get to know yourself, like things that you like, things that you're passionate about, things that you're not, and also to create like that good bond with like your like other types of like mates, like lab mates, and like a mentor, like the professor, whoever that you work for. They can be like great resources for you to really get out of your comfort zone, or like I feel like it just opens so many opportunities. Like for example, when I did undergrad research, you can go present your research to a national conference, so you can travel if that's something that motivates you. You can learn how to make a poster, you can learn how to do research, you can have a professor that can vouch for you for scholarships, for if you want to jump and switch into a different research. Like for example, for my professor, after I came back from the Ohio internship, that I told him, oh, I really like working with patients, he actually like got a grant for me to work on a wheelchair with one of my classmates who had cerebral palsy. So like we were trying to build an umbrella for a wheelchair, because otherwise she would be left out in the rain, because when the equipment gets wet, like the chair just so that's another grant that he was able to get me, but that's because I shared like the things that I really like, how much I like that internship, and so he was like, hey, this is perfect for you. So like definitely don't feel afraid to share like what you want to do, because if you don't tell people, how are they going to guess like what you want to do? So definitely share it with like, I mean, don't like share it to the world. Well, maybe if you want to, why not? But I mean, share with key people like for example, your professors who have like the means to write for like grants, give you special opportunities. So definitely that's one of them, undergraduate research, because there's so many benefits to it. Have friends, like do things out of like your major, like don't just do school. Companies now, like they look for things that you do outside of school. Like what do you do for your community, what do you do for yourself, what do you do for a hobby, like what are things that you're good at besides school? Like people don't want just like a person that knows it all. Like you also want to have some type of personality as well, and like be diverse, because you're going to work with a lot of diverse people in the work field. So also that, get to know people, like definitely, like especially if they're from other cultures, like, and if you get to a point where you're like more comfortable asking them, like I say go for it. Like for example, I have friends who wear hijabs, and I ask them what's the meaning behind it. It's nice to hear from them, people that you know, and people that will truly tell you what that means to them, and it's a lot more special than just reading about it. Just have fun too, because I feel like college days go by so fast. Apply for scholarships, apply for internships, even if you don't meet like all the prerequisites. Like, trust me, like that's not always like what they look for, like for you to meet all of them. So don't be afraid to do that, and just put yourself out there and try new things.
So, what kinds of things do you think can be done to spread the word better about STEM careers to young women and gender minorities so that they feel inspired to pursue them?
Yeah. I guess one of the ways is to reach out to different communities. So, for example, like have groups be part of like, or do like STEM activities, like composed of like all female presenters or things like that. To like, for example, the summer camp that I volunteered at, the 4-H summer camp. Go to like the schools, like local schools, and do like a little presentation, or send out like newsletters, or like ask to be part of the newsletters that get sent out to the school district. There's all kinds of ways. One of my managers was telling me that their kids have like really cool like newsletters. So sometimes when we do events, we ask if we can be put in their newsletters so the community is aware of all these opportunities. So I guess just trying to find all kinds of, like, even like on a, maybe this is gonna sound a little bit extra, but on a church announcement, like at the end, I don't know if people go to church, but like, just in the most random places, and like just have diverse people can advertise it, because they'll go different places, right? So like the more you share, the more spread the word, the more people from all different backgrounds will be aware. And I guess just maybe also social media is a really good way. Everyone nowadays has social media, so.
Cool. Thank you for the suggestions. Yeah, I like the idea of just saturating like all of the different avenues of communications with the word and something cool about STEM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, and thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Hope this can help others out there, and you got this.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Closing the Gap. If you like this show, subscribe on Spotify. You can also find us on Instagram at MV-STEM-CTE, on Twitter at Mid-Valley STEM, and online at midvalleystem.org. Until next time, keep progressing.